Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Meseches NIDAH Daf Nun Gimel. We begin on Nun Beis Abed Beis, 3 lines from the bottom at the Tanu Rabbanan, the beginning of a brisa, which links back to yesterday, where we spoke about an Isha who discovered a triple-sized stain on her beged. So the minimum size requirement for a stain to be considered metame, it needs to be the size of a gris. Rashi explains, a jumbo gris, a large-sized bean, or a bit more than a medium-sized bean. So it can either be described as kigris, gris is the bean, the size of a gris void, and a bit more, that's a medium-sized bean, or a gris gasa, Rashi says, a large-sized gris. Either way, well, let's call a square inch, just for clarity's sake. So if the stain has that quantity, she has to concern herself with her NIDAH status, or if it's in a time of ziva, so following the 7 days of NIDAH, start 11 days of ziva. She had 3 such sightings. She becomes a zava, a grand zava g'dola, which requires observance of Shiva Nakim with a carbon following. Now, she didn't actually sight it personally. It was sighted on the beged. It was a stain on the cloth, on the garment. So if it's a triple-sized stain, the Gemara yesterday taught us that we have to concern ourselves with the possibility that, in fact, it came about on 3 separate occasions. In fact, 3 consecutive days, which makes her a Zava G'dola. So if this stain is large enough to be split 3 ways, we have to assume the worst. 1 inch came on Sunday, the other on Monday, the other on Tuesday. But if it's less than 3 inch square, we don't have to split it 3 ways. In which case, we can just suggest that it came about in 2 doses during 2 days, which does not make her a Zava. Today comes a new Shita that is concerned even with a smaller sized stain, even if it's not a triple size. Why? How could that make her a Zava? The answer is because it could have happened during Bein HaShmashos, during that twilight transition period between Sunday and Monday, or Monday and Tuesday. And that sighting, that experience, will count double. Since it happened part on Sunday, part on Monday, or part Monday, part Tuesday, it's as if she saw both those days. And adding the other inch makes her a Zava 3 days in a row. Tanu Rabbanan, Haroya Kesem, she discovers a large stain on her garment. If there's sufficient quantity to be split 3 ways, giving each day the required minimum, which is that square inch, right? Gimel grisen. There is 3 grisen worth to be split 3 ways. Shenki gris va'oid, which corresponds to 3 medium plus, because a medium plus equals a large-sized gris. So either way, 3 grisen if jumbo, shenk gris va'oid, which is 3 times a gris va'oid if it's medium-sized. So in our terms, let's say it's a square inch times 3. There's a concern of Zava, because we have to speculate that it happened 3 days in a row. But if it's smaller than that, we need not be concerned that she's a Zava. Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, he quotes, even if it's smaller in size, it could have happened during Bein HaShmashos. Whether it's triple-sized, or it's even smaller, she's choshesh. Rashi explains, because perhaps part of it happened during Bein HaShmashos, which counts for 2 days. Now the Mepharshim ask, well, if you're going to split it between 2 days, then you have less than a gris on either day. So they say it's only the Rabbanan. The Meiri says it's only the Rabbanan, because it could be confused with a case where she'll actually see a full amount before the day is up and a full amount at the start of the next day. So a Bein HaShmashos experience counts double, is applied to both days, in which case, when you add the other part of the stain, you have 3 consecutive days. So again, the machlokes is whether we're concerned about a Ben Hashmash's experience. Tanakama says no. Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra quotes Rabbi Yossi. Yep. The question is, what exactly happened here? Was she paying attention during Ben Hashmash's? Was she conducting examination during Ben Hashmash's? Which would eliminate any chance of having, or is it with no awareness? What happened? Turn to the next Talmud. Amar Rebbe says, Rebbe, let me explain to you. Nirin Divrei Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra. I'm going to side with the strict opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra quotes Rabbi Yossi that she's presumed to be tummy. Shalei batka, and there was no, she didn't do any examination. So she didn't know if it actually happened or not. We have to assume the worst. However, I will adopt the Chachamim's more lenient approach when she did examine and confirm that there was no Ben Hashmash's experience. Now, end quote. What did he mean to say? So before we continue, this is a discussion back in Maseches Brachos, Maseches Shabbos. What constitutes Ben Hashmash's, that twilight zone? When does it take place? There's machlekes. So just for clarity's sake, let's call it the 9 minutes and then the following 10th minute. The first is Rabbi Yehuda. He says that Ben Hashmash's is a long stretch of time before the stars are sighted, before Tzeis HaKechavim, a half a mil worth. Time it takes to walk a half a mil, let's say it's about 9 minutes. So the last 9 minutes of the twilight period is called Ben Hashmash's, where its status is uncertain. It can be part of the previous day, part of the next day, but that Ben Hashmash's encompasses a full 9 minutes. Rabbi Yossi says no, that's still purely day. It's the previous day. Ben Hashmash's is just a quick split second. He calls it keheref ayin, like a bat of an eyelash. Let's call it a minute, just to keep things organized. So it's the minute following that 9. So the first zone is the 9 minutes of Rabbi Yehuda's Ben Hashmash's, followed by the second zone, second Ben Hashmash's, which is Rabbi Yossi's Ben Hashmash's, which encompasses the next minute, for a total of 10 minutes. So when we say she checked, she didn't check during which time zone? The first 9 minutes, which is Rabbi Yehuda's Ben Hashmash's, or is it referring to the 10th minute, Rabbi Yossi's Ben Hashmash's? My batka, my lebatka, what do we mean when we say she checked, she didn't? Amar Rava. Ashkatinu l'Rabban be'Rav. I encountered the students of Rav's yeshiva. Or be'Rav means the Beis HaMedrash in general. So anyways, I met the Talmidim of the yeshiva, and they explained to me the Yasv Kamri. He was saying over as follows. It's not a clear-cut story. It's a bit complex. What happened was, she did check herself, but not the garment. Rashi explains. She didn't check the garment throughout Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Only on Tuesday did she discover the stain, which makes it impossible to know when it arrived. Did it all come together today? Was it a bit Sunday, a bit Monday, a bit Tuesday? So that's what triggers the whole concern. But she did examine herself. When? She checked herself during the first 9 minutes. Rabbi Yehuda's Ben Hashmash's, confirming there was no dam there. That eliminates any concern during that first time zone, but she failed to keep checking during the second time zone, which is the 10th minute. Rabbi Yossi's Ben Hashmash's. Ube Ben Hashmash's Rabbi Yossi, lo batka, she failed to check. That's the subject of machlekes here. So really, it depends on your view of Ben Hashmash's. If you hold like Rabbi Yehuda, she's covered because she checked throughout that first Ben Hashmash's. No concern about having a Ben Hashmash's experience. That's the Chachamim's opinion, in which case they discount any concerns of Ben Hashmash's experiences. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra quotes Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is the one who says, no, that's not Ben Hashmash's. The first 9 minutes, that's still Sunday. Ben Hashmash's is only the 10th minute. And she failed to confirm anything about that 10th minute. You never know what happened. You have to take the worst possible scenario, that there was a sighting at that point, and that makes her a zava. And that explains the machlokes. So really, the machlokes is an hour brisa. is dated by that other machlekes. The Rabbanan Sabri, Rabbanan say, no concerns. The 10th minute, that's night time. Out of the equation, no concern there. As long as she checked during the first 9 minutes, she's good. Rabbi Yossi, however, he is consistent with his own view in terms of when Ben Hashmashas falls. The Omar, he says, Ben Hashmashas Feika Havi. He says the 10th minute, that's the suffix. And that's perhaps when she saw Dam. That was the explanation provided to me by the students at Beis HaMedrash. And I responded to them. I understand she made some sort of bedika during Ben Hashmashas, but maybe as soon as she finished the bedika, she saw Dam then. Ilmole. If it were so, if it was true that Yodea, her hands, Beinea, in her eye, it's an expression meaning her hands were doing the examination on herself. Kol Ben Hashmashas throughout the entire, 9 minutes. Then well said. It confirms no Dam. But now Shema im silik Yodea rasa. He's assuming she did a quick examination, and as soon as she pulled her hand away, maybe there was Dam then. Ramali, they told me, not to worry. It was a continuous examination all throughout the entire Ben Hashmashas. We're talking her hands were there the entire Ben Hashmashas. Full stop. So again, we have this machlekes about a triple stain, in which case all agree. She's presumed to be a Zava, unlike Rabbi Chaim and Tignas yesterday told us that even then we're not concerned, because it happened at the same time. And today we have an added case. Suppose it was less than 3. It was only 2 inches square. Chacham say not to worry. Rabbi Yossi says yes to worry. And it's really based on their view of Ben Hashmashas, because she did an examination throughout the first Ben Hashmashas, not the second. Chacham say she's covered. Rabbi Yossi says no, second Ben Hashmashas is what's critical. That's still unknown. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rebbe. So let's go back to Rebbe's quote, which was, I'm going to adopt the Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra's opinion in some fashion, and the Chacham's opinion in a different circumstance. Amar Rebbe. Nirin, Div Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, K'shalei Batka. I'm going to go with that opinion. When there was no bedika. So let's just stop for a second. What does he mean? When there was no bedika? Does he mean that, look, you consider it to be tamei, even when she did do an examination, and I'm going to say, no, I'm going to adopt your opinion only when there was no bedika. Now, how do we define these terms? No bedika. Ma'ilei batka. What does he mean? I'm going to go with your opinion and be machmer when there was no bedika, which implies that you're machmer even when there was a bedika, right? You go further than me. I'm going to adopt your opinion, but in a limited fashion, where I feel there is a concern, where there was no bedika, where it's an unknown. Ma'ilei batka. What does that mean? Ilay the batka with Rabbi Yossi. Does he mean that I'm going to be machmer when she did bedika during time zone 1, right? Rabbi Yehuda's ben Hashmashas, and not during time zone 2. And on this, says Rabbi, that's a true concern, because what happened to Rabbi Yossi's ben Hashmashas, that's really ben Hashmashas as well, and maybe there was some sort of experience there. So far so good, but this type of statement implies I'm going to only adopt a chumrah in this case, which I consider a real concern, but you're adopting a chumrah and considering her tamei, even when she did a bdika all throughout both time zones. How could you be machmer on that? It's confirmed. There's no dam. Mechlal Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra Sava, do you mean that Rabbi Yehuda himself applied a concern afagav the batka b'tarai, even if she checked throughout both time zones? Chaysha. Her batka, she checked. What's the issue? So this can't be his intention. Apparently when Rabbi says, I'm going to take your strict opinion, your strict view, in absence of a bedika, he meant to say in absence of a bedika entirely. where she made no bedika, not zone 1, not zone 2. That's a true concern. Aval Batka Rabbi Yehuda, but let's say she checked during time zone 1, not during time zone 2. So you, Rabbi Yehuda Igra, is concerned even with that, because you say time zone 2 is the real Ben Hashmashas, but I'm not going to go that far. Almo. So what does that infer to us regarding Rebbe's personal opinion about the location of Ben Hashmashas? Apparently, it only encompasses time zone 1. And since there was a Bedika event, she's covered. Alma, apparently Ben Hashmashas to Rabbi Yossi, the second Ben Hashmashas, which is Rabbi Yossi Ben Hashmashas, to Rebbe has no value. The Rebbe Lelu is considering it already the next night. Okay, so far so good. So bottom line is, Rabbi Yossi himself considers the second Ben Hashmashas to be the Ben Hashmashas. But Rebbe says no. As long as there was a Bedika during the first time zone, she's covered. Because the second time zone is already fully night. Value. Amos safe. If that's the case, let's proceed to to part B of Rebbe's statement. He says, in this case, I'm going to be machmer. Meaning, if there was no Bedika at all during the first or second time, I'm going to be machmer. But if there was Bedika during the first time zone, second time zone is irrelevant. It's already fully night. And that's going to be seemingly contradicted from the second part of Rebbe's own statement, where he seems to consider the second time zone as the true Ben Hashmashas, which triggers uncertainty. Because he proceeded and he said, I'm going to go with the Chacham's opinion, which is to be lenient with her when she performed a Bedika. Again, let's define this term Bedika. What does that mean? My Batka. Is it referring to a case which he checked during the first time zone, not the second time zone? And in that case, I'm not concerned. But what does that say regarding the Chacham's position? I'm adopting your lenient view in a limited sense, only in this case, which implies that you're going even further. And you're being lenient even in a further case, even a more extreme case. Even if there was no Bedika at all during first or second time zone, we're not concerned. She didn't check. Of course there's a concern. Meaning, I'm adopting your view if she checked part of the time. Apparently you're lenient even when there was no checking at all. How could that be? Apparently his intention was like this. When Rebbe says, I'm going to be lenient when there was a Bedika, he meant to say continuously throughout both time zones, which obliterates any concerns. Both time zones were fully covered. In that case, I'm going to be lenient. Well, what does that imply? If she only checked during the first time zone, I'm not going to be lenient. Without the second time, I'm concerned. Which is direct contradiction to what he said a minute ago. Almost from here, from the second part of his statement, it's inferred that Rebbe does reckon with the second time zone as being Ben Hashmashas and triggering uncertainty. Alma Ben Hashmashas to Rabbi Yossi, Rebbe, according to Rebbe, is fake Havi. Carries an element of uncertainty, which is direct contradiction to what he said a minute ago, that the second time zone, Rabbi Yossi's Ben Hashmashas, is relevant. Kasha de Rebbe, it's a question from one part of Rebbe, out of Rebbe, and another part of Rebbe. The answer is like this. He was never expressing his own personal opinion, Rebbe. No, just the opposite. He wasn't getting personally involved in how to define Ben Hashmashas. No, he was just clarifying for us the context of their machlokes. You should know that they are only arguing in a very specific defined case regarding the definition of Ben Hashmashas and whether Rabbi Yossi's Ben Hashmashas is to be reckoned with. Meaning, we have machlokes in the Brisa. If she found this double-sized stain, do we concern ourselves with the Ben Hashmashas, which stretch it into 3 sightings? Rabbanan say, don't worry. Rabbi Yossi says, yes, worry. And what happened during that Ben Hashmashas? Was she checking or not? Was she confirming her status or not? So the answer is like this. Comes Rebbe and he explains for us. We have these 2 possible Ben Hashmashas time zones. We have Rabbi Yehuda's 9 minutes followed by Rabbi Yossi's 10th minute. If she was checking continuously throughout both zones, all agree it's not an issue. She's fully covered and dam-free. If she failed to check throughout both time zones, no checking at all, of course, all agree there's a real concern of ziva, because maybe it occurred during that time. Machlokes is limited to when she checked during the first time zone, not the second. Tanakama says second. Livelihood. It's past Ben Hashmashas. It's Monday. No concern of Ben Hashmashas. And Rabbi Ben Igur, of course, Rabbi Yossi, well, actually, I hold that Rabbi Yossi's Ben Hashmashas, my Ben Hashmashas is something to reckon with. That's all. So he's defining the machlokes for us. He's not asserting his personal opinion. He's just framing the machlokes for us to understand. All he meant is like this. Nirin div Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra l'Rabban. The Rabban would concede, so to speak. They would agree with Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, with their opponent, that, of course, there would be a real concern if she failed to do any bedikas throughout both time zones. The lebotka klal, loy not in the first time, Rabbi Yehuda, loy not in the second, but Rabbi Yossi, because you should know they're only disputing if there was a bedika at least part of the time. Even the Chacham were not disagreeing with him, only if there was some bedika which they consider sufficient. El debatka Rabbi Yehuda, she checked during Rabbi Yehuda's 9 minutes and just failed the next 10 minutes. The last, 10th minute. But certainly if she had no bedika at all throughout all 10 minutes, of course they would agree with their opponent that she's presumed to be tummy. Okay, so pretty simple. We have this stain, which is not 3 stains together, it's just 2 stains together. So what's the issue? She's only a zav if she had 3 consecutive days. The answer is maybe it happened ben hashmashas. Tanakam says not to worry. Rabbi Ben Igur cross Rabbi Yossi, yes to worry. The conclusion was, if there was a bidika throughout both ben hashmashas, there's no issue. On the other hand, if she failed to do any bidika, of course, there's an issue. Machlokes is merely when she did during Rabbi Yehuda's ben hashmashas, which is the first 9 minutes. Rabbanan say that's enough to confirm that there was no dam during ben hashmashas. Rabbi Yossi says, what do you mean? What happened to my ben hashmashas? The next minute. And unless we have confirmation, we have to be concerned. So, according to the conclusion of our discussion, Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra quotes Rabbi Yossi that unless she had a bdika during the 10th minute, there's a concern. Now comes a kasha from a brisa where it seems otherwise. It seems that even according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, minute number 10 poses no concern. Haraya kesem, Luri Meruba, she saw this jumbo stain. Chesheshes. So if it can be split 3 ways, that concerns us that it happened throughout 3 consecutive days. Luri mu'etes, but it was less than 3 stains together. And chesheshes, no concern. Zu div Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, guess what? The same Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, who quotes Shomash Rabbi Yossi. We're not concerned about a ben hashmashas experience. Amar Rebbe, and Rebbe comes and is machmer. Ani shamati menu. I personally heard from Rabbi Yossi. Yes, to be concerned. Sha'achazu, whether it's triple stain, v'achazu, whether it's a double stain merely, chaysheshes. Why? And the reason is because we're concerned. Perhaps there was a ben hashmashas sighting, and he told me as follows: Imagine a regular nida. She sees dam. She waits 7 days, after which she's toivel. But at the end of the 7 days, she has to do a hefsek tahara. She has to confirm by way of an examination that she's dam-free. To sort of disengage, detach herself from her yemei nida, right? To change her status, she has to make an absolute confirmation. Let's say she did not separate betar, she did not make a personal examination to confirm her new status towards evening. Wouldn't you agree that she's still presumed to be tamei? So similarly here as well. Since she didn't check during ben hashmashas, which is the end of the day, there's a concern that she saw at that time. So that's Rebbe quoting Rabbi Yossi. Yes, concern. V'nirin dvarav k'shabatka. Now, Rebbe adds that even I would agree to Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra's lenient version of Rabbi Yossi when she made an examination. So again, running to that definition quite. What do you mean when he said made an examination. When, what, where? My batka. What does that mean? You know what the batka of Rabbi Yehuda, batka Rabbi Yossi? Are we speaking that she checked during the first Ben Hashmashas, not the second? And in that case, you know what? I hold there's no allays any concerns because she covered the Ben Hashmashas. As long as she covered the Ben Hashmashas. In that case, I'm okay. Which implies that my opponent, the Ben Igra, would consider her to be Torah even in the absence of any badikas. Otherwise, why are they arguing, right? Mechlad Rabbi Ben Igra, so apparently his opponent holds that she's Torah even in the absence of any badikas. There was no badika at all during time zone A or time zone B. Like Chaisha, she's not concerned. She didn't make a badika, she know. So this understanding is incorrect. Apparently when Rebbe says, I would agree she's okay. When she made a badika, what he means to say is, she checked throughout both time zones. In that case, she covered all bases. She's okay. In that case, I agree. As opposed to you, Rebbe ben Igra, who considers it to be okay, even without this comprehensive, continuous, non-stop examination. Even if the examination only covered the first Ben Hashmashas time zone, which is a direct contradiction to what he said before. The Rebbe explained that Rebbe ben Igra quoted Rabbi Yossi to say, no. Unless you have the second Ben Hashmashas covered, you're not covered. That's the contradiction that we're presenting here. Apparently, when Rebbe is lenient, that's because she covered all bases. And his opponent doesn't require that. Mechlal, apparently, the Rebbe ben Igra, he holds, first time zone is sufficient. Batka with Rabbi Yehuda, that's okay. Even V'lei Batka, even she didn't check the second time zone. She has no concerns. Alma, apparently, Ben Hashmashos, the Rabbi Yossi. What defines Ben Hashmashos according to Rabbi Yossi? So, according to Rabbi Ben Igra's version, Alma Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Ben Igra. Apparently, Rabbi Ben Igra's view of Ben Hashmashos, his view of Ben Hashmashos, is that Rabbi Yossi's 10th minute lalyu is legally nighttime. He's not concerned with Rabbi Yossi's 10th minute being Ben Hashmashos. He doesn't have that second Ben Hashmashos. Now, Tosfos points out it's a straight out contradiction in Rabbi Yossi himself. How could Rabbi Yossi himself not hold of his own Ben Hashmashos? Okay, but the Gemara expresses it this way: a contradiction within Rabbi Ben Igra himself. Earlier, he said, "What defines Ben Hashmashos? The second territory, the second time zone," and here he's disregarding it. So it's a kasha between the Rabbi Ben Igra of earlier, who considers the 10th minute as Ben Hashmashos, which requires Badika to alleviate concerns. The Rabbi Ben Igra, the second version of Rabbi Ben Igra, who discounts that 10th minute. No concern. And of course, this was based on the way Rebbe, framed and explained the brises, and particularly Rabbi Ben Igra's opinion, which turns out to become a contradiction. Now, Bishleim B'Belei Rebbe. Now, without Rebbe's elaboration, like Hasha, this could have been resolved easily. It's not really a contradiction. True, we have Rabbi Ben Igra earlier, who's machmer. We have him over here who's lenient. Different circumstances. Hasam the Batka Rabbi Yossi. Earlier, the reason why he's machmer is because she failed to do a bedika during the second time zone, which he considers to be legally Ben Hashmashos. And over here, she checked throughout both time zones. Hacha the Batka Nami with Rabbi Yossi. So it could have been answered very simply. El with Rabbi Kashi, but according to Rabbi's presentation, you have an outright contradiction. Earlier, according to Rabbi's understanding, Rabbi Ben Igra reckoned with the 10th minute as being Ben Hashmashos, and here he disregards it. You're right. There are two versions. Valiba, in accordance to the the Rabbi Ibn Igra, according with his opinion, which resolves this apparent contradiction. How? Hi Tana Savar Shalom ben Ashmash Rabbi Yehuda. We turn to this. V'hadar Chayil ben Ashmash Rabbi Yasi. Rabbi Ibn Igra, number one, goes with the position that it's after Rabbi Yehuda's 9 minutes that begins Rabbi Yasi's ben Ashmash's that 10th minute. So although she covered the first 9, but unless she covers the 10th minute, it's not covered. As opposed to the second version of Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra, V'ayin Savar, he holds it's configured a bit differently, and it overlaps. Rabbi Yasi's minute is covered. It's the last of Rabbi Yehuda's 9 minutes. As long as she covered her 9 minutes, automatically it covers Rabbi Yasi's ben Ashmash as well, and allays any fears and concerns. V'ayin Savar, the second Tana holds, ben Ashmash Rabbi Yasi, Rabbi Yasi's ben Ashmash's, which is that bat of an eyelash, is the tail end of Rabbi Yehuda's 9 minutes. Meshach Shaykh, it's connected, overlapped with Rabbi Yehuda. So since she checked throughout Rabbi Yehuda's ben Ashmash's, automatically it covers Rabbi Yasi's as well. Okay, before we continue, let's just recap this again. She discovers a kesem, which isn't large enough to be split 3 ways. It's only 2 grisim in size. Is she concerned about Ezava's status? So it depends. If she conducted no bedikas at all during ben Ashmash's, all agree. Chachamim, Rabbi Ibn Igra number 1, Rabbi Ibn Igra number 2. She's very concerned about Zaveh here, because it could have occurred during 3 consecutive days. We have to consider that possibility. However, if she did a bedika, so it depends. If she did it throughout both elements of Ben Ashmash's, Rabbi Yehuda's first Ben Ashmash's, including Rabbi Yasi's second Ben Ashmash's, once again all agreed, no concern. It eliminates any possibility of Ben Ashmash's sightings. However, she only checked during the first Ben Ashmash of Rabbi Yehuda, and not during Rabbi Yasi's Ben Ashmash's. Chacham are not concerned because that's the Ben Ashmash's. Rabbi Ibn Igra quotes Rabbi Yasi. Sure, there's a concern because according to Rabbi Yasi, it's the second Ben Ashmash that she has to be concerned about. And the second Ben Ashmash is not covered by the first Ben Ashmash, whereas according to the second version of Rabbi Ibn Igra from Rabbi Yasi, even in this case, there's no concern because Rabbi Yasi's Ben Ashmash is covered under Rabbi Yehuda's Ben Ashmash. And since there was a b'dika throughout Rabbi Yehuda's Ben Ashmash, it's all covered. Okay, further on the topic of a kesem, I'm going to have 3 discussions regarding an isha who discovers a stain and what status it gives her. Tanu Rabban, haroya kesem, discovers a stain. So we're not talking about, a triple stain, possible ziva status, a single stain. She's tummy going forward, but since she doesn't know when it arrived, we have to backdate the tumah all the way to the previous laundering of this beged. Metama atzma. The Rebbe says she's tummy going back until the last time it was laundered. Any kachim she may have touched. Atzma means, according to Rashi, any taharis, materials which are maintained by tahara. So it's not limited to just 24 hours, as we had back in the beginning of the Sechta. And Isha discovers dam, a concern perhaps it was already there for 20. Here it's way back. More than 24, until the last time the garment was laundered. Because it could very well have been there since then. Rabbi Shimon Elazar Omer, no, it's going a bit too far. Kachim, metama atzma, metama. When it comes to kachim, which have higher standards, it's tummy going back to the previous laundering. But atzma, regarding her own matters, like tahara, is ena metama. We don't go back that far. Merely, 24 hours. Why? Because a stain, which to begin with is sort of a doubtful situation. It could have come from her, it could have come from elsewhere. So it's tamei midrabanan. You can't give it more strict status than a personal sighting, right? Which is limited to 24 hours, going back here as well. Shloye kisma. So that her stain is not more chamer miriyasa from personal sighting. But it is. Regarding kachim, you are going back in time. Amatzinu kisma chamer miriyasa in kachim. Even you are conceding that regarding kachim, it does go back a week. El tanihachi, rather learn like this. Regarding all matters, including kachim, which typically have higher standards, we will not go back to the previous laundering, which could have been a week ago. We don't do that. Because we don't want the stain to have stricter status than a personal side regarding any matters. So at most, go back to 24 hours. Okay, so in conclusion, how far back is a stain matame? Tanakama says, until the last time it was laundered. Shmuel Elazar says, 24 hours. Tanarabban. Here comes an interesting story. Rasa Kesem. Suppose she noticed a stain Sunday morning, and then Sunday afternoon, Rasa Dam. She had a full period. In this case, Toila Kisma B'Riyasim Meis Leis. Divid Rebbe, according to Rebbe, if it happened within Meis Leis, within 24 hours, we link the stain to the upcoming period. We consider it to be the onset of the period. In which case, we don't have to be matame her prior to that sighting of the stain. Typically, we go back, to the previous laundering, but here we say, look, it's attributed to the oncoming period. It probably just happened now, and we don't have to go back in time. So again, let's say she saw the stain 9 o'clock Sunday morning. She's telling me 9 o'clock going forward, not back in any way. He says 24 hours, that's a bit of a stretch. It has to have happened within the same day. Suppose the stain was right before Shkia Sunday evening, and the period came after Shkia. We can't link them to each other. A different day, different experience. Again, so Rebbe says within 24 hours they can be linked to each other. So Shmuel Elazar has to be the same day, within the same night-day unit. Amar Rebbe, so Rebbe responds, Nirin Dvara B'Dvara. You know what? I think his position is more plausible than mine. He's making it easy for her, which is more plausible. Rashi explains, since the whole idea of becoming tummy by citing merely a stain is only D'Rabbanan, so in these matters we have to be lenient. As opposed to making it more difficult for her. Ask the Gemara just the opposite. Rebbe is giving her a bigger time frame to work with, which actually makes it easier for her. Nesakna? Why is his opponent making it easier? Yavusi ma'avasla, by Rav Shmuel Elazar shrinking the time zone, only allowing a linkage if it's within the same day, rather than 24 hours, he's actually making it more difficult for her. Because if it's different days, even if it's within 24 hours, he says, no, stain is like any other stain, which is matami going back 24 hours. And we don't attribute it to the oncoming period, and it's only going to be matami going forward from the time of discovery. So in a way, he's being machmir. Yeah, you'll switch it around. Rebbe's statement was like this. He says, my position seems to be more plausible because it generates a kula. No, Rachman says, don't switch things around. Because although on the surface it would appear that Shmuel Elazar is more machmir, but in a sense, it generates a kula regarding becoming a zava. He makes it more difficult for her to become a zava, which in a sense is a leniency. Shu masakin hilchei sel de ziva. He's fixing her schedule. He's helping her avoid ziva. Vani ma'amis hilchei sel de ziva. I'm sort of generating more chances of becoming a zava. How is that? How does that relate to the question of the stain? Rashi explains like this. In our case where the stain was discovered Sunday morning 9 o'clock, and the actual period arrived Sunday after Shkia. Now, according to Shmuel Elazar, it's a different day. So, when does she start counting the 7 days of NIDAH? From Sunday night. That's when the period actually arrived. Because the sighting of the kesem will not allow her to start counting at that point. She doesn't start counting from the actual kesem, only from when she has the actual period, which is Sunday night, which is really Monday. So Monday is day 1. Fast forward 7 days. She's tovel the next Sunday night, and then start the Yimei Ziva. According to Rebbe, on the other hand, since Sunday morning's stain occurred within 24 hours of Sunday night period, it's linked to it, it's attributed to it, it's considered like she started her period Sunday morning. So Sunday is her day 1. Fast forward 7 days, she's tovel Matzah Shabbos. And the following Sunday begin Yimei Ziva. Now let's say, in the following week, she saw Dam Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Is she a Zava? Zava requires 3 consecutive sightings during Yimei Ziva. According to Rebbe, yep, full-fledged Zava, because the Yemei Nida ended Shabbos. You started Sunday, ended Shabbos. Following day Sunday begins Yemei Ziva. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday makes her a 3-day Zava. That's being machmer. As opposed to Rav Shimon Lazar who says, hold it. The 70 Yemei Nida count only began Monday. We disregarded Sunday's stain because it was too far from the actual period. So Monday is day 1, over the next Sunday, which is day 7. And only following Monday begin Yemei Zava. Ziva. So when she saw Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday is part of the Yemei Nida, it's not counted as the first of 3 consecutive Yemei Ziva sightings. So she's spared Ziva status. So in a sense, he's going to spare her from becoming a Zava because he's starting a day later. And that's what he meant to say. Boy Minei Rab Zera, Rab Asi, I have a general question. Summon. Isha discovers a stain. So she becomes a Nida. Count 7 days. B'toivel. So typically, you have to do a hefsek with tahara. We discussed this earlier, right? At the end of the Yemei Nida. Today we're more machmer. Every Yisho sees even a droplet of dam is treated like a zava. She has to observe Shiva Nekiyim. Then the word she has to make she has to begin a hefsek tahara, and then Shiva Nekiyim. It's a different system. But then it was 7 days and she's tov. But at the end of the 7th, 4th tefillah, she has to make a hefsek tahara to confirm that she's tahara, she's down free. That certainly applies by a proper flow, which has to confirm that she's down free before she's table. But a kasam, which is some slight stain, is it enough to count 7 days to get out of the woods? Or does she have to actually make a physical confirmation by way of a bedika at the end of the 7th to confirm that she's down free? Ishtik, he didn't have an answer. He didn't respond. Zimnin had a different opportunity. Ashkeches, Rab Zera, encounters Rav Asi, teaching a halacha. The Yosef becoming sitting and saying over like this. Toila kisma ber Yasa. He's quoting Rebbe's halacha from before, that if the stain Sunday morning at 9 o'clock occurred within 24 hours of Sunday night's period, it's all one and the same experience, in which case we consider the stain as the onset of the upcoming period, and she begins her 7-day Nida count from Sunday. To be Rebbe. Amr Rish Lakish, on which we have a machlekes. Rish Lakish has one way, Rabbi Yechon has a different way. V'ushabatka, says Rish Lakish, when do we allow it to start counting from Sunday? That's only when we see, by way of her conduct, that she has this sensation that in fact that stain is sort of was leading on to was the beginning of the period experience. Fact is, Shabbos afternoon before nightfall, which is the end of these 7 days counting from Sunday from the stain, she did a bedika, she did a hefsek tahara to confirm that she's down free, to prepare for the tefillah, which is indicative of where she's going, of her mindset, that she considered the stain to be in fact the beginning of her experience. But otherwise, if she failed to do a bedika at the conclusion of day 7 from that stain, that tells us something about what's really going on, that she's not really feeling that stain as part of the upcoming period, in which case she could only count from the actual period itself, being day 1, so on and so forth. Even without a bedika to indicate the circumstance, she's still entitled to count her 7 days from Sunday morning, the time of the stain. We don't need her confirmation on that. Okay, but in any case, upon hearing this from Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Zera hearing this from Rabbi Asi, says, "Oh, 1 second. Why are we even discussing hefsek tahara in relation to a stain?" Oh, Amalis, he says, "Mechlal, does that imply that hefsek tahara, that even a stain requires hefsek tahara?" Amalei, he says, "Yeah, right on. Good point." So he says, "Zimna sagin." But why did you not have this? Why in the past when I asked you, but Zimna Sagin, wasn't it many times that I asked you this very question? You didn't respond to me. Maybe it was because you were so involved in the topic at hand that you weren't mindful of this point. You didn't have this make this observation. Dilma, perhaps agav shitvach. Shitvach is the flow. You flow of your learning. Ashilach, you were sort of carried along, and you didn't have this. You didn't dwell on this point. Amalei says, "Yep, right." I was involved in other aspects of the sugya, and I didn't pay attention to this point. But You got it. Amalei in, yep. Agav shetfai, because of my flaw. Asli, I wasn't mindful of this point, but in fact, very, very good observation. Okay, we'll leave the rest for tomorrow, B'ez Hashem. In a nutshell, we have the kesem being matame the isha. The question is, how far back do we go? Whether it's until the previous laundering, or is it just 24 hours? So that it shouldn't be more chamer than the actual personal sighting. We have the kesem, which was followed by a period. Rebbe says within 24 hours they're linked. Rosh Hashanah says it has to be the same day. And we concluded that a kesem requires hefsek tahara as well. Okay, all the best to you, Psuros Tevis, and Atzlacha Rav.